What will it take to reshape Michigan's business tax, or is there more to it than that? There's an argument education will lead to prosperity and that improving the state's central cities will also play a role. We discuss on West Michigan Week. Carol Valade, Grand Rapids Business Journal.
Patrick.
Good evening to seeing you here. President of Michigan. You've been here before.
I have.
And we love study just gets better. Needs to prove a point.
It is pretty having 2 decades, although it's accelerated since knowledge-based. If you look at the economy nationally, over 2 decades, 35%. And the knowledge part of the economy now has average wage 33,000. High wages of the economy in the declining part of the economy. And
I want to go back just it's been released in the last with University of Michigan. But the same thing but different. Economists there to paper and all of these comparisons. This is broad. You looked at every region of the United States.
Correct. All the states and in the country, including of 1 million or more. And we looked at them most broadly over a 20-year period. And, you know, I mean, the basic pattern is that the states are doing the best, are either following 2 paths. For in Alaska, it is they've got high energy prices, is prosperous economy.
Adults with a 4-year.
It trumps everything, and Michigan's 36. It's not policy.
Education, knowledge, highlighted.
We've been trying notion that it's is healthcare, this cluster information with telecommunications, and then this broad category which are law firms and engineering firms. 5% of the job, 50% of the wage.
Michigan as a whole ranks in places just years.
Exactly. Exactly. So terrific. Based on largely high skill, high paid, low skill, predominantly factory work. And we're still 18th in 2009. It's at 19. Fallen that far that quick ever since the Fed started keeping statistics in 1929. Factory-based economy, entertainment economy is rising. actually worse than the rest.
That would be
So-
surprising to most people.
Yeah, exactly. The data, the 55 big metros, Grand Rapids is 54th, next to fourth in education attainment and 54th in concentration and knowledge economy. West Michigan at the moment is 0 Michigan, not the 3.0 Michigan. And as long as the 2.0, you're going to be low income.
Meds and eds. That have been brought in,
Right.
we're still below the Detroit area.
Yeah. Although Detroit's collapsed too, is down to Muskegon Island. So of where West
Education
55.
attained?
the education Metro Detroit is 39th, I think, and it's 44th here. So we spent so much time. They're both very similar. They're both way in the low education attainment part of the economy. As for the state to understand, the state doesn't work. The whole future right up in whether Metro Detroit in the city of Grand Rapids. Each other. It's
What's
nuts.
the suggestion list? Take another 20.
I mean, that's, the steel industry, 20, 25 years before the now made this knowledge-based economy metros compared to the country is as strong as it was. So I don't know if you can. So we got to start.
Well, graphics,
Yep.
if we could put one of
Right, so the main story. This is national. Green block is the knowledge economy that sectors. 1 to 09, employment growth 6%. Economy lost 6% of the jobs, and then the chart that basically growing part of the American economy also is the high wage. That's where you want to be.
And then we have a Michigan income education attainment. That's the next one.
Yeah. This is as dramatic as you can. Education attainment in 2009, mid-30s. Attainment in the knowledge economy is so important. Our income, the 37th, that enormous. We've been saying to people for can't go up. Attainments in the mid-30s.
Recently, there was a economic performance. I've received a number of news release makers saying, "Hey, look, how Michigan has turned things around."
Right.
You say,
Right.
read the details.
Exactly. So that covers 2010 and the first half of 2011. It basically is the period in which industry got a chance to sort of add by the federal bailout. Michigan's not second, and the auto industry, particularly the factory part of the auto industry, will not be the driver of the Michigan economy going forward.
So you're saying this is a false positive?
Yes,
the Bloomberg
exactly.
report.
probably accurate information. It doesn't tell us very much.
But it sounds great.
sounds
Michigan's number 2
wonderful.
in manufacturing.
Well, no, it's this was
Well,
number 2 in economic
performance,
performance
yeah,
in the
exactly.
country. But I just think it is. So it's interesting. New Orleans after Katrina zoomed way up. The same thing. They had a huge infusion of federal money. The federal money went away, and they've. So unless we make this transition, we're not staying.
Governor Snyder in regard to the greening businesses, the need for new entrepreneur industries and engineering industries. See those as programs that could be helpful, and are they directed to the right and get us out of this malaise?
So we've ended up skeptical about picking. I mean, actually, it's one of the that we thought was quite good, which is sort of trying to
The government
is sort of trying to get out of. This is what driving economies is human capital. To do a better job of preparing talent, so education system. Talent, which is where you get to this vibrant central cities, is young talent increasingly is concentrating in, as I say, big metros anchored by vibrant central cities. If we don't do that.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, more with Lou Glazer, who's the president of Michigan Future Incorporated. Glazer, who's the president of Michigan Future Education.
Exactly.
We hear it all the time, and yet it never makers like to talk about it through is funding it.
Exactly.
You say per capita
Income.
tracks with education.
Yeah.
You've seen it everywhere.
The country. So of the top 15 states in college attainment, 13 are in the top 15 in to us since we've been doing this work is in the 20s. It really didn't matter that much. Arguably build public higher education system on the planet, not just in the country. This have spent a decade funding by a third. This doesn't make any sense at some point. So that investing in a top priority.
A quality
Education system is an asset to growing Michigan. And at us, in Lansing now about sort of having the state make universities, and I mean we're in favor of centralizing. The system fundamentally has worked for us for broke. Don't try to fix it. Regulating, which is really not smart. As a whole, so the case, at least I would fundamentally is working. I think it's harder to do with K-12. I mean, the K-12 system is still to do a lot of sifting the good kids and move them along and sort of I'm actually sure that's the right way to go, but I do think the higher high school standards were a very important step forward. Opening that system up to some competition with charters and others, I also think has been a step forward, but over the cliff on that.
With virtual.
Well, not with
schools.
both, exactly. This notion of allowing, basically, if I read the legislation right, you could have one, rater of online serving every kid in Michigan with no quality standard. So that's very worrisome. We should take the cap off. Somewhat good job of the traditional public school. We really need to do the same thing as well. Everybody's got.
See the state coming closer to the time. The voucher system is more than likely. Down all the district consolidation, merger,
Right.
and home
right.
districts.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the politics of that are really difficult. Happens, it'll be basically because we've tried the whole thing on the ballot watered. So, without taking position on whether it's a thing, so I think we're moving in that. I still think there's lots of people who like local schools and local control. But we don't obliterate local districts.
And
The football
Yes.
thing, and I think sports is a big part of that. Most charter schools, things. So, a community on in high schools in particular, that stuff is to quality teaching and learning, but it drives the politics a lot.
pointed to education as a big piece of this. In urban areas, so it's a population area.
Yes.
Try to match this.
What's happening at the is when they don't have children. Kids to Chicago, without kids to Chicago, and then they raise when you have kids. So to stay in cities, develop the schools that. But that's the hope, is that you can get urban schools to work.
Chicago, speaking of Chicago, is identified as communities in terms of finding that knowledge-based worker and having talent and a
Chicago. The table is, thing. The lakes by far.
in economic knowledge clusters and Chicago
Yeah. I mean, at the moment, if Grand Rapids can Chicago, that would be terrific. I mean, because, well, the high-speed rail probably makes, so if you look at the Maryland and Virginia, Boston's driving Massachusetts, and
I find it interesting that Meyer, headquartered here in Grand Rapids,
yeah,
as a, I hope they're going to bring Rapids as
yeah,
well.
me too.
And Dow,
Dow
another
just-
Michigan company.
that they're is entirely for talent. You know, start with the driving the economy.
Those out there who say, hey, I can't find the talent, these people, but they don't quite have the skill set. Corporate America sitting.
And I think we've basically that the folks to show up. So I don't know if that's existing workers, but it's not what are having the best.
Grand Rapids Community College, national effort to use.
Look, I mean, so if I at the moment, the two are the continuation of downtown Grand Rapids, which I think matters, and Talent 20. I think this is really for community entertainment. A lot of it anchored in the community.
Great Lakes region. You talk about technology and cutting taxes, corporations.
We've had this notion, the place that's doing it. What doing it right means is low taxes, small government. The only problem is they're the worst in the Great Lakes. They're the poorest. They have the highest poverty, the lowest education, lousy business class, highest incomes, the highest. Care about whether or not they're in the middle class. With tax cuts, I mean, there's just no evidence that tax cuts make.
But that's the belief.
That's the planet. Doing, pursuing an ideal. Low business taxes matter, but 3.0, they have vibrant central cities. So my hope is this leadership
For in education.
as long as we're cutting. I mean, it just
Carol Valet, Grand Rapids
Patrick
Business Journal.
Lu-
President. Next week on West Michigan.